Oh, right on time.
Boom. Got it.
We're probably live now, right?
Yes, we are.
Hi, everyone.
Yes. Another week. Another week. We are back.
Hey.
Woo.
Yay. How is everyone doing? We have a guest.
Yeah, y'all see, we got it. We got a special guest in the building. Yes, we do. Just making sure I got everything. All right. So we're just gonna get right into it. As you do see, we have a
Sorry.
guest with us today. Oh, no worries, no worries.
I'm sorry, I got like double.
This is live,
I'm trying to,
people.
I'm
This
like,
is
what is that? Where's that noise? Where's that coming from?
oh man. Well, I hope everybody
Sorry.
is ready for a great show, a great interview. If you are from the state of Florida, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We do have a special guest with us. But before we get into it, I just want to welcome all our first time viewers. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, and of course, the usual suspects. Thank you for coming. But if this is your first time, excuse me, we are a local online news show. We talk about local, national, and international news. I am Aaron Casey.
I'm Lana Quest.
There it is. There it is. um, so everybody, as you can see, we do have a special guest. This is he's from Florida. He's running for the governor. This is Amaro Lionheart. Everybody, please give it up for Mr. Lionheart.
Applause. Yay. Standing ovation. No.
Right?
Thank you.
So, if you don't mind, telling our viewers and the people who don't know you a little bit about yourself.
Indeed. My name is Amaro Lionheart, as introduced, and I'm a filmmaker and a wildlife and environmental activist. So I am very active in the community when it comes to making sure that our environment and our wildlife are well protected and cared after. Also, we do a lot of recording and we help other members of the community put together films and recording so they're able to get on their platforms on YouTube and Twitch and other stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know a lot about Twitch.
Twitch is blowing up right now.
Correct.
A lot of people who stream gamers. That's the main platform that they use. But yeah,
Exactly.
Nice.
I like that. I like that. I don't want to get into the gamer stuff because we'll be here all day.
We don't.
Yeah,
We're not here for that.
We're gonna get into the things that matter.
Yes, let's do it.
Let's go. So I am going to go first, and I will put my glasses on. So there we go. Oh, I did want to say kudos to you, Amaro. You have registered to vote on your site. I was like, this is so dope.
Nice.
Why doesn't everyone put this on their sites? Such a good idea. So yeah, kudos to you.
Thank you. With Generation Z coming into the fold, we need to get so many people involved in the voting process that
absolutely
that weren't involved before.
Right. Like, because a lot of these states don't. So here, I know I'm going away from the question, but like, you're right. Here in Massachusetts, you can register them at, I think, maybe 16 or 17, pre-register. So they get pre-registered and you don't have to go back and then register them again. Just at 18, they're automatically registered. Because we like to vote here in Massachusetts. They want to make it. They want to make it easy for us. So I do appreciate that being here in the North. So my first question: Florida is one of the most vulnerable regions in the country to the impacts of climate change. Florida is ranked third place for highest CO2 emissions in the nation. Tampa, Miami-Dade, St. Petersburg have consistently failed to meet the EPA standards, people of color are disproportionately impacted by these things as they reside in those communities, near the roadways and the factories. So, as governor of Florida, how would you tackle these issues and these dumping grounds?
Correct. First thing we're going to do is we're going to consult and work with scientists and local community members. That is the most critical part, because no person, unless you're a scientist, shouldn't be making sole decisions that affect the lives of people, especially minority communities that are the ones that are impacted the most.
Right.
So as governor, we're going to put together groups of people that are going to go in there and tackle these issues. Also, with the CO2 emissions and other greenhouse gases and environmental impacts, we're going to begin the process of empowering local communities in order to give them the funding they need in order to spread that amongst the people,
Right.
so they're able to switch to into alternative forms of travel. Also, we're going to invest in transit to reduce that impact, meaning high-speed rails, interconnecting Florida completely with high-speed rails, and all of that combined is going to reduce the environmental impacts. And also with communities that are being adversely affected with the economic side, we're going to see if we can create a system where a lot of these travel methods, let's say free public transit, explore these options to basically help people to get from point A to point B without having to depend on a car.
Right. I have another question related to these issues real quick. Does Florida have a lot of community gardens? Is that something that's in Florida? Because I don't hear about it. I know I hear about it like here in Mass, in New York, and like it's funny. It's kind of like in the north, there seems to be community gardens, and you would think there would be community gardens more in the south, but maybe because people have farms. I don't.
Correct. Well, we do have, depending on the area, there is a lot of farmlands, but within the greater areas of the city,
Right.
they should be more community gardens, more investment into those, because it brings people together.
Right. Right.
And it shows people if you can grow a little bit of your own food. It also takes away from added expenses
Right.
that you have to, buy produce, where you can kind of produce a little bit of that on your own.
Right.
And I guess the biggest impact that you have with community gardens is the bringing of communities together. It's the bringing of people together, different people, different types of ideas coming together, meeting, and then you can have a potluck. You can create a community event based off of that. So
right.
It would be beautiful to see more of that here, which we
Right.
don't really have that much here.
Right.
Kind of like what you guys in the north have. So
Yeah.
we would work towards actually bringing that to our state in terms of uniting people together.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that we do a great job of it. I just know we have it.
Right. But no, that's a good idea, because not only are you bringing a diverse group of people together, but you can also kind of tap into small businesses, because some of the community gardens that we have here in Massachusetts are next to like buildings. There's a lot, so there's a blank canvas, and some local artists will come and spray paint a mural or paint a mural to kind of add to that garden, just to give it more life, make it brighter, not just with the different plants and foods, but now people can look at the mural and be like, hey, I know the person that did that, or hey, I did that, or my organization helped, with that. So there's so many different things that you can incorporate into a community garden, and not just say, hey, we're going to just have plants and things like that. But no, it's great idea.
Yeah, and it
It,
provides shade, like
yeah,
Yeah.
in the
exactly.
heat, and that's the problem that we're not going to get into environmental racism, but those communities are typically brick and mortar, right? It's hot, so those community
Correct.
gardens could be a place where there is, shade and breeze.
Also, to add really quick on the
Mhm.
community garden aspect and bringing people together, and also with the murals and the artistic value of that, we could also see a economic value to that as well, because if you grow an abundance of fruits and vegetables, the community could also build a little local farmers market off of that, and then you can create a self-sufficient system where community members that aren't participating within that garden can go and support in a local farmers market type of deal. And
Right.
now you're empowering the community within people helping each other in that aspect. So that's something we're definitely going to explore.
Yeah, that's awesome. All
Right.
right, next question. Let's take a look at DeSantis's record, shall we?
Yep.
We just love to do that. So, DeSantis has tried to pass the racially motivated anti riot bill. He has taken away drop boxes. He has cracked down on mail in ballots. He has legalized guns in churches that share property with schools. Um, he has revived a dead bill to ban transgender female athletes competing in girls and women's sports. His COVID handling has been atrocious. I mean, that's just a few.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna go on. His poll numbers,
Mm.
his poll numbers have dropped as more Floridians are in favor of masks. However, he still has the huge donors and a well-tuned political machine behind him. Two-part question: what separates you from DeSantis? I know, but somebody out there may not know. And how do you overcome that political machine that's backing him?
Okay. So the thing with DeSantis and many of the other corporatist candidates that are being funded by this machine, the way we defeat these people is by creating community coalitions, bringing people together, and tackling the racism and the hate and the oppression that is coming from that. Let's take, for example, the transgender bill. That right there is a direct attack on the LGBT community, and it was done. I believe it was done a few days. It was done a few days, or the day. I believe it was done the day of when Joe Biden put into law the equality bill. So it was a direct attack on the community. On top of, and then with another thing with that is also the monstrous and grotesque lack of healthcare in Florida.
Wow.
And in the United States, we see 45,000 people die annually from a lack of healthcare. And these are numbers, like the 45,000 number was 2018 numbers. So I imagine even today those are worse as people get more into a economic depression because the transference of wealth from communities and the working class because of the wage depression. They're all built into the same system. As DeSantis is actually a champion of that system with his donors wanting to maintain the system that they have. And in other words, basically what separates me from DeSantis is we're looking to empower people, not the 1%.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So that's the difference between me and DeSantis. And the way we defeat people like DeSantis is, like I said before, we bring communities together, we build coalitions. And that's how we overtake the machine, because there are more of us than them.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yes.
We just got to get it together.
Yep.
My last question. DeSantis has been a vocal opponent of COVID-19 vaccine requirements. Florida has surpassed 50,000 COVID deaths. Florida leads the nation in nursing home resident and staff deaths from COVID. Florida ranks second worst. I'm sorry, like this sounds awful. This is awful. Florida ranks second worst. Oh yeah, and those deaths. To make matters worse, he has proposed a law to shield all workers from being fired for not getting vaccinated. Like he just did that a couple of days ago. Ugh. If you're elected, how would you raise Florida out of this COVID quagmire it's stuck in?
Correct. Well, the first thing we would do is, and you're gonna see me using the word "we" a lot because this is a community thing. We're
Right.
working together as a community, and regardless whether you have a governor at the head of the "we," it's a "we." This is a team effort. So what we're going to do is we're going to work with our scientists, we're going to work with our doctors and our medical community to educate people and to take back all of the misinformation that they've been infesting the Florida with, right? People believe that you can stick a spoon on your head because you got the vaccine and now you're Magneto from X-Men, right? And so there's so many unhinged things that are going on that people are buying into, and they're using these memes and they're using to counteract real science.
Right.
I guess education is going to be the most important critical aspect of actually defeating the COVID plague, is educating people and actually now putting somebody in place of DeSantis that's actually going to assure the people that this vaccine is actually the safest vaccine that's ever been created, the most studied,
Right.
and this is verified by doctors.
Right.
And so this is, you're not going to get the vaccine and you're not going to turn into a radioactive mutant that you can stick spoons on yourself and walk. So
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So it boils down to education, right? We need to educate the people, and that education needs to also reinstilling back the values of doctors are not monsters. The monsters are the people that are denying you that a vaccine because he has a vaccine. He's been vaccinated.
He's been vaccinated. His kids
Correct.
probably been vaccinated.
Exactly. So while he's telling you not to get vaccinated, because he's been vaccinated. So and then on top of that, when you get sick, you go to the hospital and you're the one facing that burden, not him. And then on top of that, his investments, he's being funded by the people that are pushing that pharmaceutical that will cost you thousands of dollars, and the ivermectin,
right,
and the other one, instead of getting a free vaccine.
Right.
He has economic interest in people not getting the vaccine, but he has economic interest in people taking horse dewormer because people are funding him from those companies.
Right.
We need to take a strong stand against that. And like I said, education is going to be critical. And we're going to see the word education come up a lot to combat a lot of things. But in this case, education is going to be extremely critical in fighting the disinformation, especially from people like DeSantis.
Yeah, the right is just, it's, the minute you turn your head and try to process the last crazy thing that they said, there's something else that's coming. Like now it's like the replacement theory. It's all of them are talking about, being replaced. And it's like, what is happening? Like, wow. It's like they get this massive memo and they just check the boxes like, okay, how racist can we be today? Replacement. Like, well, it's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Just thank God for you guys, trying to run up against. Go on.
Could I say one thing about
Yeah.
the COVID thing, about the COVID situation here in Florida? I was recently in an ER and I had to walk out. And most of the people that were in that hospital room were minorities. And they were sitting there for hours. And all you could hear in the background was a continuous word, cold blue, over and over again. Those were people that were backed up, lacking access to healthcare, lacking
Right.
access to real COVID,
Wow.
real COVID relief, right? And dying in that hospital.
Right.
And we're talking about, it was just going off over and over again. It wasn't something to the point where I couldn't take it anymore. I just had to walk out because the impact that has on you as a person. And to have him, the supposed governor of the state, the leader, where people look to leadership, tell you that it's not okay to take the vaccine, and create and to prescribe to some
Right.
conspiracy theory.
Right.
It is costing people lives as we
Yeah.
speak right now,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and it's just disgusting and sick. And we're going to combat that, and we're going to save people, and we're going to restore sanity back to Tallahassee.
Yeah. Restore sanity. I like that.
Right?
What do you, that's all my
Because that's what we
questions.
definitely
No,
need.
that is what we need. And what do you have, Casey? Those are my
All right,
questions.
all right. Well, again, everybody that's tuning in, hope you guys are listening to what he's saying, the questions. He wants a change. A change has to happen, not just in Florida, across this country. But right now, we're focused on Florida, and he's here to help make that. He keeps saying we're a community. We have to come together and fix some of these issues that need to be fixed. You guys are the boots on the ground, as they say. He's out here listening to what matters, and this is what we need more of. So enough about that. I'm gonna get into my questions. First question: education, and you have been talking
Mhm.
about education.
Yeah.
Education is important. Without it, you can't succeed. You need education to help you get ready to work for the working world, making decisions, careers, things like that. One of the issues on your website is public education. One of the bullet points um, that you have for education is entrepreneurial courses. Can you explain how that will help the residents um, of Florida?
Correct. Well, as we kind of lightly tapped upon education, education is the great equalizer, right? It is what's going to lift people out of poverty.
Right.
When we start investing into our education system, our public education system, we're going to start empowering our children. From there, what is the next avenue for them to become leaders? And one of the things I hear a lot from, especially members of the African American community, is more representation and entrepreneurial ventures and getting into business. And one of the things that is lacking in a lot of minority community is access that Caucasian families already have, right? That system is built for them. You have an uncle who owns a business, you go there and you learn. And it's a self-sufficient business. It's a self-sufficient system where they're empowering themselves. You want to go be a film director, or you want to go work in the film industry. You have an aunt that works for NGM Studios or whoever. Now you're an intern there. The kid that wants to be a film director who's African American, he may not know anybody. Now he finds it increasingly difficult to break into that industry. Now let's take for example when we talk about entrepreneurial skills. We're living in a beautiful era when it comes to empowering people because of the information we have, because of places like YouTube and other aspects. Now, we can bring that knowledge to people, correct? Knowledge is power. Again, it's all boiling down to education.
Right.
So what we're going to do with these entrepreneurial courses is for anybody, regardless of your age, who wants to go open a business in the state of Florida and empower their local communities, you're not only going to receive courses in order to help you succeed, because that's critical, you're also going to get some resources to help you with that aspect of keeping and building a business,
Right.
empowering your communities. And like we see a lot, how beautiful it is for you to go to a community and see your neighbor own a shoe shop or a grocery store,
Right.
and you actually know that person and he's part of your community. And we want to see people succeed. And a great start is free technical training. Technical training is extremely important. Vocational training is extremely important.
Yeah.
Seeing people succeed so they can get out of poverty. Let's start equalizing. Let's start pushing people out of poverty by focusing on education and actually putting real dollars into education. Not saying we're going to do it. You know, say you're going to do it, not do it. Actually do it, and let's see how we start turning these seedlings into actual beautiful blossoms.
Yeah.
Nice. And I do agree about the filming and trying to break in. You know, it is definitely difficult, and not knowing, you know, where to go or who to talk to can be difficult. You know, it can kind of crush your dreams, especially again if you don't have that aunt that works, you know, at the studio where you can get intern. Like if you don't have those connections and you do want to be a famous movie director or actor or actress, and not having those connections or resources, you know, you may be stifling the next Denzel or Meryl Streep or something like that. So it's definitely important to have those connections and resources. I definitely agree with that.
Could I ask something really quick to the resources and education? One important thing we need to look into is how do we empower minority children to have that success mindset? And one of the things we want to do with that is from a very early age, start instilling values of that entrepreneurial American dream, values that you matter, that you're important, and that you're going to make it, you're going to succeed. Opening doors, not closing them from the very start. There is nothing more horrible for you to go through K through 12, graduate, and have a closed door for you to come into, where you can't get into a local community college,
right,
because of whatever reason. Let's say, for example, because of lack of income, a lack of access. We could see access playing a very big role when it comes to business, when it comes to going into a career, and also leveling the playing field, bringing real equality and equity to the community. So that's one of the things I wanted to add as well.
Nice. All right, moving right along, I'm going to my second question. And you kind of briefly touched this when you were speaking with Ms. Quest. Healthcare is a big issue right now, especially since, as we all know, COVID has happened.
Yeah.
And the fact that your healthcare is tied to your employment. The unemployment is really high for the country, 4.8%. And unfortunately for Florida, it's 5.1%.
Sorry, Florida.
Sorry, you know.
Sorry. We've just been dumping.
I feel, you know, this is nothing personal
right,
at
right.
all. But with that being said, when elected governor, what will you do to help people get access to healthcare who don't have, who's not currently working?
Exactly. Healthcare is one of those things that is inseparable from, we hear the word entitlement. It is not an entitlement. Healthcare is a human right. We're the third richest state. We happen to be one of the most populated states as well. And it is grotesque that we cannot take federal dollars and expand our Medicaid system so we can actually get children healthcare, and we can actually get adults healthcare as well. We actually our system is so broken that, like you said, employment, you lose your employment, you lose your health care.
Yep.
If you get sick in that intermediate period because you lack health care, you can't get a job. And it is interchangeable, right? It's a big vicious circle, because without a lack of health care, you will find yourself crippled in debt. Debt leads to poverty, and you can never get out of that vicious cycle, and you pass that down to your children, and so on. What we're going to do is we're going to empower the people by exploring, and not only exploring, but fighting, and we're actually going to achieve this. We're going to make sure our state has health care for everyone, where you don't have to worry about going to the hospital and getting a bill, where you could actually go get preventative medicine with no direct expense to you. And for the people that say how we're going to pay for this stuff, is the same people. I tell them this: how do we pay for $12 billion for an aircraft carrier? How do we pay for the roads that you have? How do we pay for the billions of dollars that go towards the private prison industry to keep thousands of people incarcerated for weak cannabis charges?
Right.
I was doing some math here before we got on air, and I know that everything's connected. So if we can pay $310,000 to keep somebody incarcerated for 5 years for a cannabis charge, then we can invest that money into a community and get our people health care.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we're going to make sure that people get health care, because health care is not an entitlement. And we need to start getting our politicians to stop using the word entitlement, especially when it comes to health care.
Yeah.
It is a human right, and we need it for our people.
Right.
And we definitely need to put the pressure on a lot of these elected officials, especially in the Washington, D.C. If we can get on the federal level, it'd be beautiful. But at the state level, we're going to ensure that our people have access to healthcare, and we're going to move mountains if we have to ensure that the people have healthcare.
Nice
Like
segue.
that.
You got a segue there. Segue.
Yeah, we do have a segue. And my last and final question. You briefly touched on it a few moments ago. I live in a state that has made medical and recreational cannabis legal. In your state, not so much. Cannabis is one issue on your platform. Can you explain how cannabis legalization could help your state? How cannabis legalization is good for your state, and how it will help?
Correct. Well, we touched a little bit upon it. First of all, mass incarcerations are grotesque, and it is a something that attacks directly. It's a racist attack on minority communities, because the communities that overwhelmingly represent these penal you can call them colonies at this point, these populations are people of color, minorities. And I have some statistics here that this is just crazy. The rates and now that we got into the cannabis aspect of this, the rates for marijuana arrests for blacks compared to whites is 300%.
That's insane.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
That's crazy.
And like I said, in Florida, for an ounce of cannabis, you get 5 years at the price tag of $62,159. And these are numbers from 2015. So you already know, because of inflation, these numbers are much higher. That break for a 5-year charge for cannabis, you're looking at $310,000. That's, if Republicans love talking about, the expending lots of money, where are we going to get the money? Right. Well, they're in waste to putting people away for cannabis. We're spending close to $1 billion. I could be off on those numbers, but we're spending grotesque amount of money to keep people incarcerated, especially for cannabis. How does cannabis legalization help Florida? It helps us build a new industry where not only is it used for recreation, it can be used for industrial to build materials, to get rid of that plastic, that man-made plastic that is actually destructive to the environment. And we can move towards biodegradable options when it comes to straws, when it comes to soda containers, and when it comes to other conveniences that we have that we've depended too much on plastic. Then you have the building up of communities, right? With the legalization of cannabis, we're actually going to take that money and we're going to invest it into communities that were destroyed because of the failed war on drugs. So that means we're going to empower a lot of minority communities from the revenue we get from cannabis. And that's going to create a beautiful ecosystem where now people are lifting themselves out of poverty. Let's say, for example, and also the lack of access to education, right? I know people that have gotten a small weed charge and they can't get financial aid.
Right.
You just killed that person's chances of going to college.
Yep.
That's going to be restored. And because the day we defeat Ron DeSantis, we're going to pardon thousands and thousands of nonviolent cannabis people convicted of cannabis charges.
Yeah.
They're going to go home. They're going to be given access to their life again, and everything is going to be made right. Communities have been destroyed because of this failed war on drugs, and we could see that impact the most within minority communities. And also another thing to go on that is the revenue, the industry, and also we're going to have within communities, we're also with the entrepreneurial aspect of it, people who have been convicted, let's say previously of a cannabis charge, that's going to get dropped obviously, but then you can actually go and apply and open your own business and empower yourself and empower your community. And we believe in actual cannabis legalization for the people, not for a cartel of people that are super rich. That means if you are a community member and you want to open your own little cannabis shop, it would be no different than opening up a grocery store.
Right.
And that giving people access, right? Educating people so they can actually empower themselves. And cannabis is actually a really good source for that.
Yeah.
There's the recreational aspect, there's the health, there's the industrial. It's just going to create lots of jobs and lots of opportunities for people.
And lots of high.
Yeah.
The main thing though is jobs. That's the main thing. A lot of people will be, elevating all that, but it will create jobs, just like you said.
Exactly.
Small businesses, now you can hire people in the community. There's other aspects of, not just, selling actual cannabis. There's growing, cultivation. So there's mad different little other, not necessarily industries, but other aspects that you can get involved in that's not actually physically touching the plant or working with it. So there's other things that you can do and still be part of the industry, but not actually, partake in smoking or anything like that.
Sure.
So there's so many avenues.
Yeah, there's actually some Black folks. I don't recall. There may be celebrities, I don't know, but they've gotten into the cannabis industry. Maybe celebrities, I don't know. But they actually hire the people that have come out of jail finally after getting those cannabis charges, and they hire them. Like specifically, they hire those people to work in that industry with them. That's pretty dope.
It is. And it also gives people a chance because they were robbed of their life.
Right.
and it also gives them an opportunity to lift them, because once you've been locked away for, let's say, 5 to 20 years for a cannabis charge, which you never should have been gone, you never should have been
Right.
taken away from your community and your family in the first place.
Right.
You're coming out of that already into poverty. You have no wealth, you have nothing. So you just can't go apply to go work basically anywhere because you're a felon. You can't go to school and get help because you're a felon, right? So by empowering your community, let's say like these rappers are doing, and these entrepreneurials, because they're entrepreneurs, right?
Right.
That see the value in helping community members.
Right.
And I celebrate that. And that's something that we're going to focus heavily on, is empowering communities, and especially minority communities that have been devastated by the failed war on drugs. We're going to bring that to a conclusion in Florida, because when you have one of the most populated states and the third richest state in the country put the death knell on the war on drugs, you're going to have California follow, you're going to have New York follow, and you're going to have all these states follow. And we're definitely going to see descheduling pretty soon. So it's just coming all to a final conclusion. Next thing in this story is, how do we make things right with the communities that our fathers, our predecessors destroyed, because communities have been destroyed. I say a lot to people, the war on drugs wasn't fought in a jungle, or wasn't fought somewhere else. This failed war on drugs was fought in the community, in communities here. And the devastation is being seen today with the inequality in income. We see that with the inequality in education, and we see that with families being completely destroyed, and systemic racism, oppression, all being tied into this little bowl called this little present called the war on drugs.
Yeah.
That is coming to an end. And so that is something we take very seriously. And as a consumer of cannabis, which I can say that proudly, and you're not going to see a lot of politicians saying that, because we need to start removing that stigma.
Right.
Because we don't really put a stigma on alcohol. We don't put the stigma that deserves on other types of, like alcohol. 4,000 people died from alcohol poisoning.
Right.
Not one person has died to this date from cannabis.
Exactly.
Another thing with the cannabis thing is, we're going to eliminate this cannabis discrimination. No employer will be allowed to test or discriminate because of cannabis use. That is something we're going to implement, and that's something we're going to work towards. Again, we're about empowering people. And if we can get minority communities empowered with cannabis dollars, from the taxation from cannabis dollars, going into schools, going into programs, and ending poverty, that right there is a game changer. And we're going to see Florida. Next time we talk about statistics in 4 years, they're going to be beautiful statistics. They're going to be great statistics, not horrible ones.
I'm with it. Well, thank you for that. That actually ends the interview portion. But the show is kind of winding down. But everybody, I'm going to pass the mic off to Miss Quest. What you got for us?
Some rapid fire questions. But first, every time I hear the war on drugs, I think of two things. Eggs frying in that pan during that commercial. I was like, this is your brain on drugs. And if Snoop Dogg has not OD'd on cannabis yet, like it's not a thing. It's just not ever gonna happen. Because if anyone would be OD, if anyone would be dead from an OD on cannabis, it would be Snoop.
Right?
Anyway, moving on. Amaro, you didn't think that was funny? Come on, I'm the resident comedian here. Let's do these rapid fire questions so we can let you go on with your night. Okay. What's worse, laundry or dishes?
Dishes.
Yeah, I think so too.
I would say laundry. I'll do laundry. I just hate folding clothes. Like it
It takes
I'll
too
wash
much
clothes
time,
all
right?
day.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
takes too
I'm
much
not a
time.
folder. I don't fold. That's why I don't work at a retail store.
Good point.
Okay. Advice you wish you never took.
Advice that I wish I never took was when I was in high school, I had a high school counselor tell me that I shouldn't be a poet because I would be a bum. And so I wish I would have pursued that because I did a lot of writing for the
Right.
entertainment industry, but I wish I would have proceeded more into that career, that beautiful career of poetry. Obviously, he was full of it, and a lot of kids are discouraged by career counselors because of
Right. No, you can't
they
be
give
an
them those weird
artist.
advices.
Exactly. You can't be an artist. You're not going to make any money. And it's like, yeah, how about graphic design? Like there's different
Yeah,
types of,
Right?
oh
exactly.
gosh. Okay. Advice you never took and wish you had.
That right there, I wish I would have listened more to my grandma who recently passed away. Basically getting a little healthier because I gotten pretty big. So I wish I would have taken more advice on that. And I'm actually taking corrective measures on that. So
Oh,
I wish I would have actually followed through with that advice when she was still alive to actually.
no. Sorry for your loss and
Thank you.
congratulations on
Thank
taking
you.
the measures. Let's
Yeah.
go. How do you start your day?
Well, I start my day by listening to affirmations. I
Mm,
believe in the laws of attraction and meditating and putting the sets in my mind that we're going to succeed. I'm going to succeed and starting out the day positive, regardless of the negative affirmations sometimes you get in life.
yeah.
Always start the day being blessed that you woke up that day and that you're ready to get going. That's the way I start my routine.
And that's a good way because Twitter will
Yeah,
have
it
you pulling all of your hair out and then somebody
is.
else's hair. It's just
Yeah.
awful.
That's why I ain't got no hair.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Awful. Okay. Favorite subject in high school?
It used to be writing when it came to basically poetry
Mhm.
and the creative arts. That was my favorite subject, as well as some of the sciences like physics.
Ooh, physics.
Yeah.
Name of your high school crush?
um,
Well, you don't have to say if like she may be or he, whatever may be
yeah.
out there. You may not want to give
Yeah.
that information away. Like, I didn't know that. So
Yeah.
as I just said it, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have. I remember mine. Mine was Michael Slayton. If you are out there, Michael Slayton, and you still have all of your teeth, give
Yeah.
me a call.
uh, I just don't really remember anymore. It's been a while. I mean,
I will never forget mine ever. Oh my God. We used at the end of the year. Sorry, I'm being sidetracked. Oh, yeah.
yeah.
We used to have to, we went to like amusement parks as a school trip. And oh my God, I needed to be in the haunted house with Michael just all the time. All of the time. Just over and over and over again, like haunted house, because that's where you get to like kiss and do all the things your mama would not be proud of. Okay, next. Who or what inspires you?
That's a really good question. And what really drives and inspires me is the work that people like. Here's a real good one. Bernie Sanders really inspires me because the way he brings people together and his sense of community. He's one of the only people actively a lot in the Senate right now that is really fighting for us, really fighting to empower the people and the communities. And Also, like if we kind of think of other people that inspire, we can kind of look into Martin Luther King, his works, and actually listening to what he has to say when it comes to bringing people together, especially to fight inequality and injustice.
Right.
And we always see things like, for example, in Florida, things just happening in Florida. I just witnessed a paralyzed man get pulled out of a car on a video disgustingly. And a lot of people say, well, that's lack of training. No, that's monstrosity. That's a lack of humanity. So we need to get more humanity instilled and basically come together and fight injustices, not only in the state where we're found in, but everywhere, because it's a threat to justice anywhere. You know, it's you know what I mean.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's basically an attack on our civility, as an attack on our people. When you have somebody like those officers dragging that poor man out of the car and beating him up and stuff like that, we need to fight injustices like that, and it's not just stuck in one state. And even what we see in Texas with the attacks on women's rights, reproductive rights, we need to attack that as well in terms of maintaining women reproductive rights. We're also seeing that attack also here in Florida, as DeSantis is trying to attack that, because what's next? Equality. What's it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, of course, it's equality. They're doing that right now with
Correct.
the replacement theory. Like,
exactly,
it's coming. Tuckums is talking about it. He's on the move. Last question: if you could erect a statue in Florida, who would it be of, and where would you put it?
Well, I would like to say it's going to be a combination of statues, because one of the things that I want people to be inspired by is by the accomplishments of the people that came before us. And what I mean by that is people like Martin Luther King. He definitely will have a statue in Tallahassee, and a garden of heroes.
Oh, that's
all the people within all these communities, diverse communities, we're going to erect statues in their honor. And also there's the other aspect of this is we're also going to, and in the spirit of erecting statues to honor people like Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, and others, we also want to remember the massacres that occurred and that occurred in a lot of these towns like Okajee and Rosewood. We're going to build statues to remember that, so people can never forget, and this will never happen again, that entire communities were wiped out by racism and hate. So statues to these communities are going to, a memorial, in other words, and a statue and statues of memory are going to be erected for these people. So it's more of a combination of more than just one person, but it's going to be a collection of people. And I guess we can kind of have like a hall of heroes where we can basically highlight Native American people and African American people, Asian Americans who have actually had an impact on the state of Florida and other places, because we want to highlight and recognize achievements to our country.
Yeah. Wow, that was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we are getting down to the last little bit of the show. But before we go, I have one last question for you. Well, if you can answer the question, and then once you're done, if you can let people know where they can follow you, social medias, and I'll make sure that we'll put that in the description after the show so people can go to those websites. Okay? But the last question is, with everything that we talked about, what is the one thing that you would like the voters of Florida, what is the one thing that you want them to take away? It could be something that we talked about, something that we didn't talk about, but what is that one thing that you want them to take away from today?
Well, I want the voters of Florida and other places around the country to take away from this entire process that we're talking about is coming together as a community. We're never going to get the change we deserve if we don't come together and defeat the agents of the 1%, the people that control a lot of these politicians. We need to come together so we can actually bring change. And that will be holding politicians to account for the lack of inactions and their actions. So they're tied together. So if we could take anything away from this is unity within the community, so we can actually work towards real progress, getting people health care, getting people a living wage, and getting people to finally have prosperity, because the pursuit of happiness is not just words. We're going to actually put meaning to that, because the people need relief.
Right.
That's a good one.
So give everyone, your information, your Twitter, where your social, all your social media, just everything.
Correct. Well, you can find me at Twitter. I changed my little Twitter thing for positive affirmations to Governor Lionheart, so you can find me there. And also Instagram is the same thing, Governor Lionheart. TikTok, Lionheart 2022. Twitch, Lionheart 2022. And also our Act Blue, you could find us by typing in Amaro Lionheart on a Google search. That appears on there, and you can learn, if you want to learn more about what we stand for, you can go to lionheart2022.com, and you can actually get an idea of what our platforms are. And our platforms are actually currently evolving as we speak to more community members, and we're going to be adding more stuff to it to actually be as inclusive as possible, so people can actually have a sense of belonging and that they actually contributed to the overall change of their communities.
Right. Nice. This has been fun. Thank you so much for coming, and you have to come back.
Thank you. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much. Casey, we're going to end it now. That's our time. You guys have a great weekend. Yeah. Oh, you have something else?
Oh, yeah, one thing.
Yeah.
I would like to, if you guys don't mind, could I shout out Richie Floyd?
Ahead. Go right ahead.
Yeah, go right. Yeah.
Yeah. Richie, I want to shout out Richie Floyd, who's actually fighting to bring change to the community of St. Petersburg. He's running for city council, and he's going to be having an event this Sunday at 1:15 at Seminole Park. If you are in the St. Petersburg area, come by and support. I'm going to be there as well, and we're going to see if we can actually get him elected. And he's going to be a great agent of change for the community.
Yeah.
And I thank you both
we know those. Yeah, we need some agents of change.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you? Yeah, I'm gonna follow him on Twitter if I don't already.
Yeah,
I may already do, but yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Amaro.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend, everyone. Everyone out there, Thank you, usual suspects. Thank you for tuning in. The chat was on fire. You didn't see them all, but the chat was on fire. They were liking what you were saying and all that stuff.
Yes.
So that's great. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, guys. You done?
See you guys next week. Happy Thursday Eve. All that good stuff. Like, share, subscribe. Shout out to the best moderator on YouTube. She's awesome. Real quick, Miss Quest did do a show last night.
Oh yeah.
The Quest show. It was great. I'll make sure to have a link so you guys can check that out. But with that being said, thank you again, Mr. Amaro Lionheart, for stopping with us. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Good night.